If you have ever asked yourself, how do I believe in myself when no one else does? And I haven't achieved anything yet. This episode is for you. It's easy to believe in someone who's already proven competent. But every top entrepreneur or athlete started as no one, facing a gap between their confidence and their actual competence. So today, I will show you how to build the only kind of self belief that works long term. Not belief in who you are right now, but belief in who you're becoming. So, welcome back to Catch the Zenith, the podcast about high performance and business. I'm Nicola Flückiger, currently working in a B2B software company or startup in sales. So let's get started with part one, the self-belief trap. So we human beings, we admire successful people and think, of course they're successful. Look how good they are. But that kind of confidence only comes after competence. And here's the problem or the challenge. If you haven't achieved anything yet, you have no reason to believe in your current self. Your identity and worldview are producing your current results. So the world reflects what you believe, what you expect, and what you tolerate. And if you tolerate being unhealthy, poor, neglected, or rejected, your identity reinforces it. You get trapped in beliefs formed by past experiences. Now, let's talk about learned helplessness. So, psychology gives us a clear example, which is learned helplessness. You put a dog in a box, you shock it when it tries to escape, and soon the dog stops trying. It expects pain. That's the reason why. And humans do a smarter version of this. We try to build a business, a career, or a skill. And reality pushes back. It hurts. And people start to judging us. People judge us. And we fail. So we stop trying. But here's the truth. You are not a dog. You are not stuck in that box. So let's talk about part two. Stop believing in current you. So here's the counterintuitive move. Stop trying to believe in your current self. Beliefs drive actions. If you believe 9 out of 10 businesses fail, you will behave like someone who only a 10% chance or has only a 10% chance of success and make failure more likely. Part of the reason is because you start identifying with this identity that I can't be successful anyway. And the universe or God or reality itself tends to meet your expectations. Now, what can we do instead? What is the shift? So don't believe in who you are right now. Believe in who you are becoming. And the only belief you need is this. I can change into the kind of person who achieves what I want. And that is transcendence. Hard word. So let's move on to part three, radical responsibility. So we know now the shift. We need to believe in who we are becoming. Now, where you are in life is the product of you. And maybe your problems or challenges aren't your fault, but they are still your responsibility. When your confidence slips in front of a mountain of work, it's a sign that your goals and your identity are misaligned. And that discomfort is an unconscious call for expansion. So let's talk about part four, or in part four, goals are a call to expand. You want something you can't yet achieve, and that's why it's a goal, obviously. It's a deep unconscious drive toward growth. And this creates what I call goal identity dissonance. So a gap between who you are and what you want. And the wrong question to ask yourself here is, how do I believe in myself enough to hit the goal? And the right question is, who would I need to be to achieve this goal? So we are thinking in identities. So you can look at people who have already achieved it, not their height, skin tone, or eye color. You look at their identity, their beliefs, their worldview, their character traits. And a quick side note here worth mentioning, I think what identity actually means is repeated beingness. So something we do over and over again becomes our identity. It's an important side note because if we have certain behaviors we do on a daily basis, we reinforce who we are. And the cool thing is really we can alter, we can change our identity over time with different behaviors. I'll give you an example. Right now, if you don't work out, your identity perhaps is not someone who obviously is working out in the gym. But if your goal is to build up this identity of a fit and healthy person, you start proving this to yourself by going regularly to the gym, by eating a healthy diet, by sleeping consistently at the same times, 8 hours. And then more and more you start believing this, that, hey, I'm actually a healthy, athletic, fit person. But now let's move back to regular program. Let's talk about part 5, identity is malleable. So humans can change completely. What I just told you guys. Your brain is plastic. You can change your identity as many times as needed. And I've done it in business, in health, over and over again. In my job and with habits, in different areas of my life. And the first belief to change is this. You believe that beliefs can change. Pretty simple. You believe that beliefs can change. And your identity is just a collection of beliefs you hold about yourself. And those beliefs were formed so they can be reformed. That's the point. It's not that if we have one identity, this is just made in stone and we can't alter that. Quite the opposite is true. Now, what can we do? So we start with the end. We don't pick goals that fit your current identity. We pick an identity that fits your goal. So you can ask, who must I become to achieve this? And then you become that person. We don't really achieve goals. We achieve identities that make the right behaviors effortless. And those behaviors cause the effects. And those effects produce the outcomes. Now, part 6, the painful middle, temporary healthy delusion. So, right now we know we don't pick goals that fit your current identity. We pick an identity that fits your goal. Now, the first stage of change is emotional turmoil. So you will act out of alignment with your old self. Your psychological tectonic plates will grind. Your current identity will fight to survive. That's called worldview protection. Yeah, that's normal. We feel kind of certain resistance to change. At least some people do. And it feels chaotic when the old self dies, because part of yourself is basically dying, yeah? And you will need to tolerate something I call temporary healthy delusion. So you act as if you are the new identity before you have any proof. That's how change begins. So you haven't done the work yet, but you start believing that you are already that kind of person. Well, this can help, at least. I think it's a part of change. Now, in part 7, let's talk about act like your future you, building up on that what I just said. Now, which comes first, belief or action? The answer is both. It's a loop. I'm saying that because some people just talk about manifestation all day long, about believing, blah, blah, blah. If it helps them, Wonderful, amazing. And other people only talk about changing behavior, action, fair enough. But I think the answer is very much considering both aspects, belief and action. It's a loop. And here's the key belief. The person who could achieve this goal would already have done it. So your job is simple. You become that person. So I'll give you an example. Let's say your name is Elon and your goal is to become a millionaire. And you face a choice. Party tonight or make 3 more hours of cold calls. Yeah, picking up the phone, doing cold calls. Now you ask, what would millionaire Elon do? So your future self, your future identity. Millionaire Elon would makes the calls. Would sit and do the cold calls, as uncomfortable they are. And repeat this across hundreds of small decisions. Yeah, it's painful because you're dismantling years of conditioning, but intensity shortens the timeline. So you ask yourself that question, what would future me do in that instance right now? Again, another example, if your goal is to become healthy or healthier, you can ask yourself, okay, what would healthy me do right now? So it's evening. Imagine yourself sitting on the couch watching Netflix and you have a bunch of crackers in front of you or chips or some junk food. And you can ask yourself, okay, what would future me do in that instance? And the answer is you would replace that with something healthy, or maybe not eat at all because you haven't already got a meal early on the night or during that evening. Okay, so let's move on to part 8 of this episode. Reconstruct through relentless action. So you break down your old identity through relentless action. And soon your behaviors will reconfirm a new self-image. So action obviously is super an important ingredient because only manifestation or belief will not bring you very much forward. It's an important aspect, but action is then you need to prove to yourself that you are the person who you claim to be. Or at least this is what helped me. And soon your behaviors will reconfirm a new self-image. This is what I just said, I think. So you stop the parties and instead you make the calls. If you're an entrepreneur or working as a sales development representative, like I do, so booking meetings for other people or sales calls. Another example could be you stop the weed, the drugs, and you eat clean. Or you drop the video games and work more. Or you change your social circle. Or you read, you learn, your feeds and algorithms shift. And you can remember, your identity has already been constructed, mostly by accident. And up until now, you've been reacting to life. But from this point forward, you construct it intentionally by making new things happen. So let's close with this, the core truth. You will keep the same name, the same eyes, and maybe a slightly worse hairline. But inside, you will be a different person with different thoughts, different behaviors, and different results. And here's the final point. You don't achieve a goal. You achieve a character. And that character achieves the goal. Let me repeat. You don't achieve a goal, you achieve a character. And that character achieves the goal. All right, that's it for today. I think the main takeaway is just, belief is important. Belief and action, it's a loop. We can ask ourselves, what would future me do in that moment? We can already pretend to a certain extent that we are that person who we want to become right now, although that can be sometimes quite challenging. But as soon as you start to act on it and to behave like this new identity would behave, you start reinforcing this behavior and this identity. And I think on my journey, I love working out, hitting the gym. And when I got into this entire fitness world thing, I haven't built up that identity of someone who is, a gym person or an athletic gym person, let's put it like that. But as soon as I started to go regularly to the gym, I showed myself that I am that person who I claimed to be. And then real change started to happen, because at a certain point, I was very comfortable with saying, like, yeah, I'm someone who's going to the gym. I'm an athletic, healthy person. Another example, with this podcast, when I started my podcast back in 2020, published my first episode, I think in April 2020, it was quite inconvenient or uncomfortable if saying that I'm now a podcaster. And the reason for that is I haven't done the work yet. I just published 3 episodes for my launch, but I haven't published over 200 episodes. But now it's 2025. It's Monday, September 15th, 6:25 p.m. And right now I feel like a podcaster. And the reason for that is I have done the work. I'm not yet where I want to be. Obviously, I have so many things to learn on how to be a good podcaster. But I feel comfortable saying that, my identity, part of my identity is podcaster. Or my identity, I would say that's a huge part of it. Or one identity, let's put it like that. And you see, it was only through relentless action, doing the same thing over and over again, showing up almost every single morning over a course of 5 years, and proving myself that I am that person who I claim to be. Another thing is, I think maybe to bring also in a different perspective when it comes to identity, which I quickly want to discuss at the end of this episode, which is a little bit off topic, but a lot of people right now I see on the internet identifying with a certain identity. And identities obviously can be super cool. And if we go back to our initial definition of saying something you do over and over again becomes your identity, then some people do also, they start identifying with a negative identity. Give you a personal example. And then I also have seen stuff on the internet, but let's do a personal example. I used to say I'm bad in math. Yeah, mathematics are not my strength. Back in the day, I used to say that, especially during high school. Maybe not every day, but at least sometimes. And over time, I started really to identify with this identity of someone who's not good at math. And over time, I realized, okay, how does that, speaking over myself that I'm not good at math, how does that serve me well? The answer is not at all. It limits myself. It limits myself to get better math and improve. And then when I got into university, my undergrad time, bachelor degree, I stopped speaking that over myself. And I remember second semester, third semester, fourth semester, I had super good marks. And I became good in math. I wouldn't still consider myself the super logical thinker. I think other people are way better at that. But I stopped saying that I'm bad at math. And then I started to improve. And I had decent marks, my grades. And I was thinking, wow, why did I say that all the time over myself? That didn't serve me at all. But the point is, and I read that in Atomic Habits, a book by James Clear, can highly recommend that if you start identifying with a certain identity, you are more likely to behave in accordance to that identity. If you identify as someone who has a short attention span, according to that, what I understood is you're more likely to act in alignment of that, like someone who has a short attention span. But if you prove to yourself that you are someone with a long attention span. You prove that to yourself by consistently training yourself with deep work sessions, reading books, turning off notifications, etc., this becomes your identity. But if you say in general, like, I'm bad at this, you limit yourself. And I think the words we speak over ourselves are a huge part of it. If we all the time speak negatively about ourselves, we are more likely to act in accordance or in alignment with that negativity. And there are many examples out there right now online. I think a good example in some cases, not in all, sometimes mental health issues where people strongly start to identify with a label. And if it helps someone, more power to you. But I would make the argument a lot of people would be better served if they flip negatives into positives and work on their challenges and don't identify with someone who is broken. Because every human being is unique. We have certain personality traits that are unique to us, and seeing ourselves as a construction of different behavior traits, and we are higher in certain traits like maybe openness or conscientiousness and lower in others. But then it's way more empowering as opposed to a label, an identity that we speak over ourselves that just limits us. All right, guys, I hope that helped. And as a thank you for tuning in, I spent 4 months putting together a list of 100 podcast episodes everyone should hear before they die. All from other shows, not mine. Spent quite a good bunch of time on that list. And inside you will find my top 10 all-time favorite podcast episodes, plus the best episodes I've ever discovered on wealth, health, relationships, and productivity. It's my free gift for you. Just click the link in the show notes to download it for free, and you will also get my newsletter so we can keep learning together. All right. And if you want more insights like in this episode, subscribe to the podcast and check out my weekly newsletter, Zenith Sunday, where I share lessons I'm learning in real time about growth, business, and life. All right, have a good week. Talk soon.